Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's DealerOn webinar, How to Leverage Yelp to Drive Sales and Service. My name is Eliana Raggio and I'll be your moderator today. Today's webinar is being presented by DealerOn. For anyone who isn't familiar with DealerOn, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our amazing customer service, the highest converting website designs in the industry, including the brand new Chameleon responsive website platform. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that we're still the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. Does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads or your money back? Maybe you should check us out at our gorgeous brand new DealerOn website at DealerOn.com. I have no idea what happened to that slide. By the way, DealerOn is going to be attending an awesome industry event, Kane Automotive's 11th Annual Automotive Digital Success Workshop. It's going to be November 10th through the 12th in Lexington, Kentucky. It's your passport to digital success, where you'll build a plan that perfectly aligns with your goals and carries you into the new year. And DealerOn's own Director of Search and Social, the amazing Greg Gifford, he's going to be a keynote speaker. So for tickets or more information, check out kaneautomotive.com. We hope to see you there. And we have an awesome show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Jeff Cryder as our presenter today. Jeff Cryder is an active partner at Command Z Automotive Consulting, a firm that focuses on digital marketing and strategies within the automotive industry. He came onto the automotive scene as the marketing and communications director at Lebanon Ford and has quickly become an industry leader on dealership marketing and communication strategies. He graduated from Miami University with a bachelor's degree in mass communications and a minor in political science. Jeff has been featured and quoted in Automotive News, Auto Dealer Monthly, Ward's Dealer Business, and Driving Sales Innovation Guide. And he can be reached at jeff@jeffcryder.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we're going to answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, we're going to try to respond to you by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of this webinar recording is going to be emailed to you later today for your reference, and please feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. Guess what? Our good friends at Command Z Automotive Consulting, they are giving away a spectacular prize today on the webinar. Now pay attention, folks. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a Motorola Moto 360 23mm stainless steel smart watch. That's right. This beautiful timepiece not only gives you important updates at a glance, it also tracks your health and fitness. Moto Body tracks your steps, your distance, your calories burned, along with your heart rate, and it responds to your voice. Just speak to it to get the info you need. This is an awesome prize. This is like a wow prize, and I gotta say, I am so jealous. You have to be on the live broadcast to win it, so stay tuned. You could be the one walking away with this seriously cool prize today. Also, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey, so fill it out because we're always looking for quality feedback from our audience. Today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And hey, do you tweet much? You know what? We hope you do. We'd love to see what you have to say about today's presentation, so please tag us in it. Hashtag DealerOnWebby, or I'm at Eliana Raggio. You can also hit up Jeff Cryder at CryderJA. We look forward to seeing what you're saying. So, let's get started. Let's learn how to leverage Yelp to drive sales and service. Jeff Cryder, my dear old friend, how the heck are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I am very, very excited you're here today. I know how well you webinar. I know firsthand, so I'm really excited. It's the first time you're here on a DealerOn webinar.
You set the bar pretty high.
Oh, will you stop? And you know what? I got to say, we have never, in all of our webinars, ever done a webinar on Yelp. I'm really excited about this subject. I know it's really, really important, and I know you're going to tell us why it's important, but I'm very excited about this. So thank you so much for bringing this great topic to our weekly show. Where do we begin?
Yeah, well, we got a lot to get through, so we're going to start quickly with the objectives of what we're going to cover today. So today's objectives are really getting you a better understanding of why Yelp's important in local search, help you learn how to optimize, help teach you how to optimize your Yelp listing. You'll learn how Yelp evaluates reviews, and then we're going to share some ways on how you can get more Yelp reviews that will stick and stay in the recommended filter, which we'll be explaining. I'll be explaining later on. And then finally, we'll be wrapping everything up with a Q&A section. Okay, so in a nutshell, the goal of local SEO is to show up and look better than the other guy. And that's where Yelp comes into play, right? So Yelp, pretty much next to Google, is the most important place that any local business can use to grow its online presence. And one of the reasons for that is, oh my gosh. You set the bar high, and
did I mess you up, Jeff?
Got all Jimmy Jack.
First day with the new keyboard.
Yeah. So when we talk about Yelp, it's next to Google, considered one of the most important places a local business can be when it comes to search. So what I want to do right now is I want to take a moment, and before we jump into why that is the case, I want to get an understanding of what people's feelings are on Yelp. What's your sentiment on Yelp? And I know, Eliana, you get a poll question.
Yes, we do. Audience, today we have 3 poll questions for you. This would be your first. We want honest answers from you all, okay? So the question is, how do you feel about Yelp? I kind of feel like a therapist right now. Tell me how you feel about Yelp. I'm sure one of these answers goes with your exact feelings, so let's see if we can narrow it down. Please select one of the following answers. Yelp is awesome. I use it myself. I'm a Yelper. It's working fine for us, but I'm always looking to improve. I don't understand Yelp enough to have an opinion. I know Yelp is important, but it's just so darn frustrating. Or, I hate it, hate it, hate it. Die, Yelp, die. Yeah, there are people out there who feel that way as well. So once we get a majority of these votes, we're going to close the poll and share the results. How do you feel about Yelp? Please select 1. Yelp is awesome. It's working fine, but we're always looking to improve. I don't understand it, so I don't have an opinion. I know it's important, but it's really, really frustrating. I really don't understand it. Or, I hate it, hate it, hate it. Die, Yelp, die. Yeah. Audience, thank you so much for being awesome. We are going to close this poll in just another couple seconds and share the results. Jeff, are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm very interested in seeing this.
From
my experience, it's very extreme.
So
one way or the other.
Before I share the results, do you want to tell me which one you think it is?
Which one I think people...
Yeah, which one do you think the majority of the audience went with? I'm just curious if you know.
I'd probably say I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, die, Yelp, die.
You would be right. The majority of today's audience, 31%, a third of today's audience really, says I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, die, Yelp, die. I can't believe that many of you guys hate Yelp. Okay, well, let's go up. 23% of today's audience says, I know Yelp is important, but it's just so darn frustrating. Another 23% says, I just don't understand Yelp enough to have an opinion. 19% said, it's working fine for us, but I'm always looking to improve. And the remaining 4%, they think Yelp is awesome. They use it themselves, and they are self-proclaimed Yelpers. Jeff, we got a lot of people on here who really don't like Yelp, but they came anyway to see what you have to say.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone taking the time to come out and challenge their beliefs on Yelp. So what we're going to do now is I want to share some numbers with you. One of which being Yelp has currently over 83 million cumulative reviews. Now, 4% of that are automotive. And now you're probably thinking, like, what in the heck are we doing talking about something that is worth 4%? Automotive represents 4%. Well, if we do some quick math, you take 83 million and you multiply that by 4%, that's roughly 3,400,000 reviews, right? So how does that compare to other websites in automotive? Well, Yelp has more reviews than even DealerOn and Cars.com have combined. So 4% of Yelp is larger than those two websites combined when you compare how many reviews are on that website.
Hey,
Right?
I'm
So
sorry to interrupt you, Jeff.
yeah,
It doesn't look like the screen has moved forward. Can you like go backwards and forwards with your
it
screen?
hasn't moved forward.
It's still showing the poll slide for some reason, and I am completely out of the poll.
Man, you jinxed us. You really did jinx us.
Dude, I did jinx us. Don't say that. I don't know what happened.
Where
I don't know. It's still saying. All right, audience, are you seeing what I'm seeing with the quick poll? How do you feel about Yelp? Is that still on your screen? Yep. Okay, so they're seeing what I'm seeing. Okay. Well, this is a interesting.
let's do this.
What are you doing?
What do you see now?
Still the poll slide. I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Right.
I'm going to make it. Oh, there we go. That was better. All right, now you can go back to that 16, slide 16. Sorry about that, Jeff.
Oh, no problem at all.
By the way, Ryan wrote in, he says, I blame Yelp, so.
Okay, that's an easy thing to do. We'll do that from now on. We'll do that from going forward. Okay, so what I was sharing, and this will make a lot more sense to you now that you can actually see my screen, is when we talk about Yelp, Yelp has currently 83 million cumulative reviews. So that's entirety of Yelp covering all industries. When we look at automotive represents 4% of that. Now, what normally happens when I mention that is people look at me like, what in the hell are we doing talking about Yelp when automotive represents 4% of the entirety of that platform? Well, if we do some quick math, you take 83 million, right, and you multiply that by 0.04, right, you get around 3 million reviews. So how does that compare to websites, other websites in the auto industry, right? So when we have DealerOn, who, I know a lot of times in their advertising, they tout having the most automotive reviews in the nation. Love DealerOn to death, right? But what you were looking at here is Yelp at 4%. Yelp has more automotive reviews than both of those two websites combined, right? So when we talk about its relevance in automotive, it's very relevant. It's extremely relevant, especially when you consider 4% of Yelp outweighs two of the larger, review sites when it comes to automotive. So the audience is there. It has a massive audience. Now, the other part of the equation, when we talk about reviews, it becomes now how are those reviews distributed, right? So Yelp has an enormous presence, an enormous reach. Some say it would rival Google, which is one of the reasons why Yelp and Google don't get along very well. Now, one major partnership that Yelp has is with Apple, and Apple uses Yelp as its go-to source for local business data, if you didn't know that. So what does that mean? How does that show up? Well, when you do a mobile local search via Apple Maps, right, there's your Yelp reviews, right? When you do a desktop local search via Apple Maps, your Yelp reviews. Safari, right, both mobile and desktop. So you can almost consider, we talk about ranking on, page one, putting all our efforts in page one. Well, here's a situation where they haven't even gotten to the search result. They have their mobile device in their hand, they're typing Honda dealer, and a dealership already pops up above the Google search, right? So you could almost consider in today's environment, especially with iOS 9 coming out soon, you could almost say this is the new page one, right? Optimizing yourself for this local search. So mobile and desktop via Safari suggested searches. You have mobile local search via Siri, right? Yelp reviews populate. Mobile spotlight. Now, the significance of this, it's one of the things that do we have to really have a conversation about how many people have Apple devices, right? Well, it's pretty astounding when this survey found, a CNBC All American Economic Survey found that 50% of all U.S. households own at least one Apple product. Now, the scary thing is that survey was done in 2012, so we can only imagine what that would be today, right? So One of the other areas that you'll also find is the desktop local search via Spotlight too, right? So when you're using Spotlight on your desktop, you're right there identifying your Yelp reviews are present. So with Apple, Yelp has a massive presence with that platform, and with Apple currently owning 43% of the smartphone market share, right? These are opportunities to get in front of our customers that a lot of us don't really take advantage of because we don't understand Yelp, or we don't like Yelp and we shy away from it. But the thing is, our customers aren't shying away from it. Our customers are using these applications as well, more and more every day. Apple Maps, for instance, as we talk about the relevance of Apple Maps between Google Maps. Well, ComScore just came out with their ranking of the most used applications, and Apple Maps ranks 11th on that list. So when we talk about Apple Maps, we talk about Yelp's presence within those Apple local search ecosystems. You have a huge presence there. Now, desktop local search via Bing, right here, Yelp reviews are being utilized. Now, if you look over here in the right-hand column, which in Google terms would be the knowledge graph, you can see how this could affect this dealership's reputation, right? So right there, 1 stars across the board for Joe Morgan Honda. Now, if this is someone's first impression, right? They're searching for a Honda dealer. They happen to be on Bing. This is a negative. They're going to gain a very negative perception of this dealership, regardless of what they might see elsewhere. This is first impression, right? So we look again at Toyota dealers in New Jersey, right? Yelp reviews across the board, right? So Bing local, Bing Maps, right? Bing search, all utilize Yelp. Same with Yahoo, right? So desktop local search via Yahoo as well. So the importance of this is that 9 out of 10 consumers have looked at reviews in the last 12 months to help them make a decision on their local business. Now, here's the scary thing. According to a study by Lightspeed GMI, up to 67% of customers would be deterred from doing business with your dealership after seeing just 3 negative reviews, right? So when we talk about, a lot of times when we talk about online reputation or optimizing for local search, we focus only on Google, but we fail to see the whole picture. And with Yelp, Yelp is really that gateway, when we talk about reaching customers and influencing their purchases of influencing the decisions of where to purchase on sites like Yahoo, Bing, and people who have Apple devices. So when we talk about 67% of customers who would be deterred from doing business with your dealership after seeing just 3 negative reviews, right? That's kind of hard to kind of quantify, wrap your head around. So here's an equation that you can work through at your store and identify the numbers that are unique to your own store there. So what this equation is it's basically saying what are the annual new car units sold? Multiply that by the 0.67. So if we say, okay, 67% of customers would be deterred if they rate, if they read 3 negative reviews, then you're a dealership who is losing customers because of your online reputation. This is essentially showing you what that is going to cost you. So to make everything easy, I use simple numbers here. So annual new car sales, new car units sold, 1,000, right? Times that by 0.67, you get 670. Multiply that by the average gross profit per car, and what you get is your total dollar at risk. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm not losing, $1.3 million.
Again, I don't think I ever saw Wonder Woman do that, but
it's one of my favorite games. Now, what you're probably saying to yourself is that's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of money. Now, if you're all sitting there and saying, you don't believe it, well, you can cut it in half, and you can cut that number in half again, and ask yourself, are you willing to lose even that amount of money? So when we talk about the influence of online reviews, especially when it comes to the presence that Yelp has, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money to be on the table, and there's a lot of opportunity to capture that market. So how do we do that, right? So when we talk about how do we optimize our presence on Yelp in order to gain visibility of our reputation, right? So there's kind of twofold efforts here. One of them is optimizing the Yelp profile in order to then appear higher up in Apple Map searches, to show higher up in Bing, Yahoo searches as well, which there are people who use those, right? And then there's the second effort of the reviews, right? So how do we get positive reviews? And the two things are two pieces of a puzzle, right? They drive each other, right? So the one thing we want to start with, first off, is we want to ensure that our data is both accurate and consistent with the local data aggregators. So why that's important is what we're basically doing is trying to identify and prevent any future duplicates or any inconsistencies on our Yelp page from cropping up. Now, the problem with duplicates and inconsistencies with information can be, it can split, so you have two Yelp pages. It can split your reviews, so some customers review you here, some customers review you on one page, some customers will review you on another. You can confuse customers, so if they can't find you or you're listed under a different business name, that causes confusion and that causes a lack of trust, right? And you're also run the risk of competing with your duplicate pages for rankings. So the first step is going to the root and ensuring that the data we provide, which is our business name, our physical address, or phone number, all of those things is accurate and consistent. Now, how do you do that? Well, one of the easiest ways you can do this, and as someone who's gone and done this manually myself, I would highly recommend you check out Moz Local. Moz Local probably is the best out there in terms of taking care of the inconsistencies and duplicates of your listings out there, and providing that information to you so you can get a clear snapshot of where you stand, as well as they are really the only ones out there that I know of that go after those data aggregators. You have a Yext that a lot of dealerships use, but they don't necessarily go towards the data aggregators that Moz Local does. And for $84 per year per location, it's hard to beat that compared to what you would be paying somebody to go in and do that manually. So you want to make sure the data is accurate, and I highly recommend utilizing a tool like Moz Local to take care of that for you. So the next part of this is we want to make sure that our Yelp listing is claimed accurate and receives consistent reviews, right? So when we talk about claimed accurate and receive consistent reviews, so when you think about like the Googles of the world, the Apples of the world, the algorithms that determine what shows up where, in the end, it all comes down to these companies want to put the most relevant and trusted sources in front of consumers, right? So if people do not trust the data, if they can't trust the data, then they're going to go elsewhere. So if no one trusts the data on Google, they're going to go over to Bing. If people aren't trusting the data on Bing, people are going to leave there. That was the problem with Apple Maps early on. One of the issues is that the data was so bad that it deterred people from utilizing the platform. So there's an incentive for these providers to ensure that the information that is being served up to a user is accurate, consistent, is accurate and consistent, right? Because it's all about helping the user solve that problem. So what we want to make sure we're doing is following suit and playing to that game, right? So we want to make sure the listing is claimed. We want to make sure everything is accurate, and we want to make sure that we're receiving a consistent and steady flow of reviews, right? We don't want sudden influx, right? Because that shows sort of artificial activity, right? We want slow, consistent reviews. Why? Because slow, consistent, positive reviews are a reflection of a quality business, right? A reflection of a quality business, not a reflection of a dealership who wanted to get into the online reputation game for a month and then forgot about it the month after. So when we talk about optimizing your Yelp page, the first thing you want to make sure you do is get set up on Yelp if you haven't already. And this is one thing I would suggest to a lot of the auto groups who might be sitting there, because what you see quite often is an auto group will have one Yelp listing that represents all of their stores. And the problem that becomes, what that can create is when someone is searching for the specific Yelp, the specific dealership name in something like Apple Maps, you run the risk of not appearing, which I'm going to show you an example here in a moment. But so if you haven't gotten set up, go to biz.yelp.com, make sure you claim that Yelp business page, get verified, and complete your listing. How you do that, you essentially, at biz.yelp, you land on this page, you search for your business name, and you get started. It's a very simple process on how you can get started set up. All right, so when we talk about optimizing your Yelp listing, there are 7 components of this really. Number 1 being the consistent use of the business name, right? So you want to make sure your business name is being used consistently. And it's not just on, not necessarily just on Yelp to, your website. It's across the internet, right? So an example of this, here's an example of a Google My Business listing for a Matt Castrucci Honda, right? So this is how they're listed in Google My Business. Their Yelp listing, so if you look at the address, the same address, is Matt Castrucci Auto Mall Dayton. So when you do a mobile brand name search via Apple Maps for them, they don't show up, right? So think about that for a moment. Think about how, we talked about Apple Maps being the 11th most used application that's out there, right? And you spend all this money trying to drive people to your door, but yet when someone's trying to find information on you, you're making it difficult for them to do so. So consistent business name is exceptionally important, as is making sure you're using your accurate physical address. So you want to make sure you pay attention to formatting, right? So make sure your formatting of your address is the same as it would be on your Yelp listing, as it is on your website, as it is on your Google profile across the board. Right? Local area code phone number is another big component of this. Now, I have nothing against call tracking numbers other than they make it very difficult because you sign up for a call tracking company, right? You go 6 months, you decide we no longer want to do this because no one's listening to the phone calls or we're not really tracking the stuff, so you ditch it or you hire another provider. Well, what ends up happening is if you add in these call tracking numbers all over the place, right, over time, you could find literally, let's say, 4 or 5 different variations of your phone number online. All of those variations of inconsistencies create a lack of trust, right? So our goal here is to be as consistent as possible, and local area code phone number is one of the easiest ways to ensure that your phone number is going to be consistent and accurate across the board. In addition to, there are signals that search engines look for with local that allow your local area code helps tie you to your physical location. Now, if you're somebody that has to have a call tracking number, you are able to purchase a local area code tracking number, and that's something that you could speak with your phone provider with. But there are local area code tracking numbers available that you would just simply change your phone number efficiently to that local area code tracking number, and then now you've got a tracking number with a local area code phone number. So I would I highly recommend that when it comes to call tracking numbers, you limit them to your website. And for properties, when we talk about Yelp specifically, make sure it's a local area code phone number. So if someone's searching for you on Apple Maps, for instance, and you've got a bum, call tracking number in there, and they try to call you and it doesn't call, how many chances do you think that customer's going to give you to contact you, right? So we want to make it as easy as possible for people to contact us as well as find information about us. Now we talk about relevant categories. You want to make sure your categories are relevant, and you want to be as specific as possible. So in this situation, Yelp doesn't allow you to get down to the manufacturer level, so you want to list yourself as a car dealer, right? So you don't want to, car dealer, auto repair dealer, and parts shop, depending on how big your parts department is. But really, you want to stick to car dealer and auto repair shop as your category. So make sure you got relevant categories selected in there. Next, you want to make sure your store hours are put in. So make sure store hours are accurate and consistent. So the theme here is consistency, right? So consistency is the key thing when we talk about optimizing the presence of our Yelp profile. Now, we talk about photos, right? Talk about photos. One of the things that you see quite often, and I'll set the scene with this, is you have a situation, or you come across a profile that has 6 to 10 images that look something like this, right? Where one image is of a clear summer day, right? It looks beautiful outside, right? Looks like it's maybe the first day of like spring or summer, right? Nobody's around, right? You got a picture here of the service drive, right? Got cars up on the rack. No one's around. What are they at lunch? Like, where is everybody? It's daytime. I see you, right? Got a picture of the showroom, right? No one's around, right? So, offices, no one's around. There's a steaming cup of coffee. Everyone's gone, like some type of post-apocalyptic, scene out of The Walking Dead. Like everyone's just missing, right? So, one of the things you think about, and we talk about unintended consequences, is the fact that an empty dealership, for example, this photo we're looking at right here, our dealerships are made up of primarily what, right? Concrete, steel, ceramic tile. What else is made up of concrete, steel, and ceramic tile? What other building types are made up of concrete, steel, and ceramic tile?
Jails.
Now, you probably are thinking, yeah, exactly. Thank you. You got jails, you got mausoleums, right? You have associations with things that aren't really pleasant. So when you publish a photo like this online, right, what feeling do you think that gives off, right? Maybe intimidating, maybe cold. Do you look warm and friendly? Do you look approachable? And those are things you want to think about when you're utilizing these photos. Now, when we talk about the types of photos that these kind of fall under, informational, I call them informational photos. And there's nothing wrong with them per se. It's when you only rely on those photos online to really give a customer the sense of what you're about and what, the perception of your store is where it becomes a problem, where it can become a problem. So if these types of photos are boring, and they can have really intended consequences in terms of, what we just talked about, right? What feeling does this give off, right? Well, I'm wondering where everyone is. Where is everyone at lunch? Where is everybody, right? So the thing you want to think about is emotional, right? You want emotional photos, because emotional photos tell stories, right? So these are photos that we took at our store when I was actually at the dealership. I was at Lebanon Ford, and one of the things that we did was, which I'm going to share with you how we did that, is we wanted to make sure that we told a story. We wanted to show human emotion, right? Because car purchase is part of emotion, right? So when you're coming up against 2 dealerships that look identical, right, or rated identical, right? So they're 5-starred, right? And they have similar reviews, and one dealer has, right, photos that look like this, and another dealer has photos that look like this. Which one are you going to gravitate towards? Which one feels more human? Which one feels like you're creating a connection with? And that's where this type of photography can really enhance your page, in the sense of if you are in a very competitive area, this type of imagery can really help make you look more human, make you feel more approachable, and really drive that connection. So one of the things, how you can really do this very simply in terms of getting this type of photography is, here's a workflow that I created for you. So my in-dealership workflow for photo content awesome sauce. So one of the things, what you want to do is you can task a handful of your employees in your store, right? So you task a handful of your employees. So in this situation, there's 3 employees here, right? Task them with taking 1 photo a day, right? Can be anything. Can be a selfie. Can be a group selfie. It can be a picture of product. It can be whatever they want it to be. What you're trying to do is to get different perspectives of the dealership from different people's points of view. Right? So you're looking for that human-to-human, everyday, very candid type of photography. So you task, that's in this example, 3 people, take 1 photo a day. Now, you can set up a file, you want to set up a file share, whether it be Dropbox, Google Drive, or the old-fashioned way, email. If everyone has an Apple device, you can set up like a shared Apple album, right? So everyone, once they take that photo, boom, they just put it in the Dropbox or the shared album, or upload it to Google Drive or email it, right? So at the end of the week or the end of the day, whoever's managing that, whether it be the marketing director or a third-party company, right, can take that content, which now you have, in this case, good quality content, unique content that with local data embedded into it. Right? So you take that content, you maybe spice it up a little bit with Instagram, or you maybe spice it up in some type of, throw some sepia filters on it, right? And now you've got fresh content you can upload to Yelp or upload to whatever other social network or listing site you want, right? So with that type of workflow, you're pumping out 15 photos per week. That's 15 new photos per week, every week. Right? Now you can take and you can refresh your Yelp listing with fresh content. You can publish content to other social media sites, but this is a way of very easily democratizing content creation out to your dealership that can have a positive effect, especially on Yelp, when it comes to people's perceptions and reinforcing the reviews, the positivity that hopefully your Yelp profile has. So that's one example of one way of really getting quality content on your Yelp page. Now, when we talk about descriptions, right, this is what you typically come across when it comes to descriptions is something like this. Here's an example of a dealership here in Cincinnati. I call it company happy talk, because when you hear it and you read it, you just hear this little voice in the back of your head that just says blah 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 blah, right? And in the end, really, what have we done here? Well, we've just written something because we just had to put something in, or SEO provider told us we needed to stuff these keywords in because it doesn't read right. Well, here's the thing with descriptions, right? You want to make sure you're writing this in a way that really illustrates and conveys how the customer can benefit from doing business with you, right? So how do I, as a consumer, benefit from doing business with Terry Ford here in this example? And that's where you really want to highlight what are your core features. So what are your differentiating factors, right? So you have the best service technicians in the state. Like, what does that mean to me, right? What does that mean to me? Well, it means that we're going to keep you healthier longer. That will save you money, time, and frustration, right? Or let's say you're the best rated dealer on DealerOn, right? Everyone seems to be that these days. What does that mean to me, right? Explain the benefits of how I can do business with your dealership. Now, you're probably thinking, like, what in the heck? This sounds like a lot of credenza wear. Well, one of the things you can do, right? One of the things you can do is when you're making these claims, right? So when you're stating reasons to believe or your differentiating factors, and you're stating, you'll save time, you're going to save money, right? You need social proof to back that up. Well, what type of social proof is on this page? Well, you have customer reviews. So if you don't know how your customers are benefiting from doing business with you, go through and mine your customer reviews. Go back and read through your reviews and look for the common threads that customers are saying about your store, right? So are they saying, man, I really felt confident leaving there knowing I got the car I want? Or, man, their service department does a phenomenal job at explaining everything to me. I really feel like an expert, right? So feeling like an expert, the confidence part, you're looking for those buzzwords that will help you understand really how customers are benefiting from you, and then take it and put it into a nice, short, condensed, very concise description that's impactful, because now you have, here's why you need to do business with us, and now you have this, and not only that, but you have the social proof to back it up, because you've taken what your customers have already said about you, right? So why is that important? Well, something like a description can be very important because it can help drive click-through rate, right? If you can tell me how I'm going to benefit from doing business with you, right? If you're telling me I'm going to save time, and you're telling me I'm going to save money, and I'm looking through your reviews and people are saving time and they're saving money, I'm going to click into your store, right? I'm going to click to your website, right? I'm going to click to your hours. I'm going to click to your directions, right? Especially if I'm on a mobile. Those things are all very important. Why? Because those are the signals that, Yelp, right? The algorithm that Apple has in place, Bing, Yahoo, when we talk about Yelp specifically, we don't just shy away from Google in this conversation, but Google also are looking for those types of signals, right? It's not keyword stuffing that really is going to rise you to the top. It's writing compelling copy for the user or the customer that will compel them, that compels them to want to do business with you, right? So driving phone calls, driving clicks, right? Driving those types of behavior, those conversion behaviors, is really what will help optimize that Yelp profile and help rise you in those rankings, right? So if you want to show up, number one, in terms of when I'm searching Honda dealer on my mobile device, which, by the way, I should have mentioned, that Honda dealer that showed up wasn't the closest one to me, right? It wasn't the closest one to me. So the algorithm takes into consideration how many people are clicking on their stuff, how many reviews do you have, how many is it consistent reviews, right? How many times does a person click on your listing, leave your listing, and goes to somebody else's listing, right? So all those things come into effect, and one of the things that is really important to help drive that behavior is the description part of your Yelp profile. So get rid of the company happy talk and really sit down with whoever's maybe doing your marketing, maybe you have an advertising agency, and mine your customer reviews. Get an understanding of what your customers are saying about you. And this requires you don't even have to hire a focus group or hire anyone to come in with dark rim glasses and tell you what's up, right? All you have to do is just sit down and read your customer reviews, and now you'll have the ability to, or the information to really craft a well-crafted story. So I think we're at a poll question here.
Yes, we do. All right, audience. Your second poll question is on the screen now. We're looking forward to see your answers to this one. The question is, do you currently have a process in place at your dealership to invite customers to review you? We want online, of course. Please select one of the following answers. We want to know what's going on in your dealership. Is the answer yes, and it's working great for us? Yes, but we're not seeing the results we'd like. No, but I'd like to start one. Don't know and I don't care, or I did not know we were supposed to invite customers to review us online. So let's get those answers in as quickly as we can so we can get back to this awesome show. The question again, do you currently have a process in place at your dealership to invite customers to review you online? Yeah, it's working great for us. Yes, but we could get better results probably. No, but I'd like to start one. I don't know and I don't care, or I didn't know we were supposed to do that. Those votes are coming in fast. And Jeff, we have a lot of questions for you from the audience already. A lot. A ton of questions, actually. Okay. All right. So keep those questions coming in, audience. We do appreciate it. We're going to see how much we can help you out today. All right. All right, Jeff, if you're ready, I'll close this poll and share the results.
Perfect.
Cool. Let's go. All right. 40% of today's audience said, yes, they do have a process in place to invite customers to review them online, and it's working great for them. 40%. That's wonderful. 44% said they too also have a process in place, but they admit they'd like to see better results. Now, that's a huge majority of our audience. Only 14% said no, but I'd like to start one. 2% said that they don't know and they don't care about that. And no one answered the last question, the last option, which was, I didn't know we were supposed to do that. Jeff, does that help you out?
Perfect.
All right,
That's
and you
good.
know what?
That's good. Seems like a lot of people are off the ball with that.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of
The
people are on the
slide
board.
is your slide deck is doing the same thing as last time. That's never happened to me before.
All right, so
That's so weird. Oh, good, you're back.
all right, so we're looking at the poll question slide, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, we are. Thank you.
All right, so now we're now looking at the how Yelp evaluates reviews,
Yes.
which is sort of all right. Okay, so here's sort of the this is really the sort of the core element of Yelp here, what we're going to be talking about here in the next couple of slides. Because this is what really drives people insane when we talk about Yelp, right? Now, when we talk about how Yelp evaluates reviews, here's a kind of a higher overview, and I'm going to go down a little more much more in depth about it. So we're all on the same page. Reviews are evaluated by Yelp's automated software, so they actually have their own proprietary algorithm that evaluates reviews, considered by many to be this kind of standard of review evaluation out there. So when you compare the way that Yelp evaluates reviews with, let's say, a company like DealerOn that does it manually, they have some filters in place, but they go through a manual process. This is a very sophisticated set of the algorithm that is an automated system that evaluates our reviews. So they have their own system in place. That produces the reviews, published reviews. So now when we talk about, Yelp will tell you that 75% of reviews are recommended based upon quality, reliability, and user activity, which I'm going to go what that means in a second, right? So what does quality, reliability, and user activity mean? Now, why I want to bring this up about when I say 75% of reviews are recommended. Now, that 75% represents all 83 million reviews. Okay, so that number, that percentage, is sort of misleading in a way, but I wanted to illustrates the point. Misleading in the sense that Yelp evaluates industries differently. So the algorithm that they use is different for different industries. They have different industry categories or business categories. Very similar to the way the way Google, their algorithm works differently depending on the industry, right? So they have an algorithm that's tweaked to specific industries. So knowing this and what I know of the Yelp's algorithm, it is much more strict and stringent for automotive. So automotive, out of all the categories, has one of the highest, the filters, probably the strictest out of any of the other categories. And the reason for that is the propensity in the history of fake and fraudulent reviews coming out of our industry. So that percentage, if you were to ask me, of the 4% of reviews that are automotive, how many of them are recommended, I would tell you it's probably much lower than that. I would probably say anywhere probably between maybe 65 to 60% of reviews are recommended for automotive. If depending on the day, I probably would say it's even lower. And one of the reasons for that we're going to get into in the next slide. But those of you who don't know how Yelp sort of works at the basic level when we're talking about recommended and not recommended reviews, is that when a review gets published on Yelp, it can fall into two buckets. You have a recommended and you have a not recommended bucket. So depending on when that review is published and Yelp evaluates the review based upon quality, reliability, and user activity, it can fall in one or the other, right? So let's say it falls into not recommended first, right? So it falls into not recommended. That review will not factor into your overall star rating. So if it's 5 stars or 1 star, that review will not factor into your overall rating. Now, over time, so this algorithm is not a static thing. It's not a one-time thing. It's a consistent process. So if there are changes in that quality, reliability, in user activity, right, of that user in the review, that review can go from not recommended to recommended, as well as a review that gets published and falls into recommended can fall from recommended to not recommended. Now, it's a living and breathing thing. They cross over. Okay, so it's important to understand that. And one of the ways it's beneficial for us is, especially if you bought a dealership or changed ownership, right, and the reputation of the store wasn't as stellar, it wasn't stellar, right? Well, over time, Yelp recognizes that businesses evolve, businesses progress, businesses get better, right, internally and culturally, organizationally, right? So a lot of times what will happen is over time, those older reviews will fall off into not recommended. Okay? So that's one way we benefit from it. Now, the way we don't benefit from it, and this is really, if I can sum it up, the frustration with Yelp, it falls into this, which is that per their terms and guidelines, right, you are not allowed to directly invite a customer to go online and review your business. Right? So Yelp does not want you to ask or tell a customer, please review us on Yelp. They want you to say and use the language, check us out, right? See why people love us on Yelp. Now, the reasoning for this on their side, from their angle, is they believe unsolicited, organic reviews are the best, right? That's the recipe for quality reviews. Okay. Now, a lot of us here, when we talk about this right here, with you can't tell a customer to review us on Yelp. A lot of us, again, it's all hell no, right? You can't tell me what I'm going to do with my customers, what I'm going to do at my store, right? So this is typically the response that I get when I'm having this conversation. Okay. Now, from the angle of, all right, if the goal is to get positive reviews, right, that stick, this actually makes a lot of sense. And here's the scenario I'm going to present to you. So when I said that Yelp reviews, evaluates reviews based on quality, reliability, and user activity, they look at a couple components, right? So what they look at is the time between account creation and the publishing of that review, right? They look at the language used in that review. So is it skewed one way or another, or is it nothing of value? So they look at the value of the review as well from a wordage standpoint. Okay? And they also look at the completeness of that user's profile, right? So how complete is that user's profile? How many friends they have? Have they connected Facebook, right? And that goes also into how many reviews that they publish as well, right? So that's the user activity part that plays into it, right? So the quality, reliability, and user activity falls into those. Those are the criteria. That's how it kind of acts out and plays, right? So time between account creation and publishing a review, the language used in the review, and the completion, how complete is that person's profile. So here's the scenario, right? Oftentimes in our industry, because Yelp is a different animal when it comes to inviting customers, we're very used to when a customer comes up, they just came in for service, they're happy, maybe they serviced, this is their 5th time servicing their vehicle, they bought let's say they bought 2 cars from you, right? And you say, hey, I just came back from this 20 group, we're really trying to, we're really trying to get a presence on Yelp. Would you mind reviewing us on Yelp? Or hey, please review us on Yelp. And the customer says, absolutely, I love you, man. You're the best service advisor I've ever had. I'm going to go do that. I'll go do that tonight. Right? So the customer goes back home on the computer, opens the computer up, right? And the likelihood, and this is where when we talk a percentage game, the likelihood that the majority of your customers will be Yelp users is probably pretty slim, unless you're living in the major metro areas. Okay, so the likelihood that person has a Yelp profile is going to be pretty slim. So that person goes home that night, they open their computer, right? They create an account, they register an account. Now that person has registered an account with the intent of reviewing your business, right? So He's sitting there, he opens the account, the likelihood he's going to publish that review at the same time of account registration is probably pretty high, right? Because he has no intent of coming back. So he publishes that review. Now, a customer who is willing to go through that, right, is willing to go home, sit down, open the laptop, register, a profile, and publish a review, that's a lot of commitment. The likelihood that the language is going to be skewed pretty positively is going to be pretty high. Right? And the likelihood that because they're not necessarily an active Yelp user, that the investment in that review is probably not going to be all the way there, right? So there's two things that could happen there. So let's say that review gets published. Now, because this customer has no intent of really coming back and utilizing Yelp because they have not made any personal investment in the platform, right? The likelihood that they're going to complete their profile is probably pretty slim as well. So when you take a look at a Yelp profile and they ask you things like, what are some things you've recently discovered? What is your favorite movie, your favorite food, your favorite color, all this stuff? You're going to look at that and you're going to say, oh, hell no, I'm not going to waste my time on that. Right? So what you have is a review that was published at the time of account registration. The language is either probably skewed pretty positively, it's 5 stars, or you're pretty short. Okay, we're talking about the positive side of this. There's obviously what happens on the negative side, which I'm sure I'll get questions on. Right? So on the positive side, right, and the likelihood or his account is not created. So from Yelp's point of view, knowing that we now know that the review filter is much more strict for automotive, right? That review is more likely going to fall into not recommended, right? Because it looks like what? It looks like a fake review. Looks like a fake review, right? So the problem we have in our industry when it comes to Yelp is a lot of it is we're going about it in a way that we approach it in a way that we approach asking customers to review us on Google, Dealer Radar, Carson, etc. And the reality is Yelp filter is geared toward that type of behavior, which is why we have reviews that go, boom, fall straight into the not recommended filter. So how we go about getting reviews on Yelp, positive reviews on Yelp, is a different game entirely in itself, right? So the thing with Yelp and how we get reviews on Yelp is we have to get them to stick, is it's all about creating Yelp users, right? It's all about creating Yelp users. Why? Well, bean counters over at Yelp, the bean counters at Yelp have discovered or probably determined that the likelihood of somebody coming to Yelp with the intent of reviewing one business, the likelihood of that review being recommended is probably pretty small, right? It's probably very small. So the likelihood, however, of someone who you invite them to check you out on Yelp, so please check us out, right? Now a customer goes back and says, oh man, my friends have been talking about Yelp, I'm going to check this thing out, right? They go online, right? They open up their Yelp profile, they see what it's about, right? They don't review a business right away, right? But they've made a personal investment. The intent of the account registration was for personal use. So the likelihood that that person continues to use Yelp and qualifies through the quality, reliability, and user activity evaluation, right, is much higher, right? So it's much, much higher. So when Yelp tells us don't directly invite customers, they're doing it because that plays right into the filter. Your reviews will not be found, right? So the roadmap really is how do we get people to check out Yelp? How do we develop? How do we cultivate? How do we grow Yelp users, right? And that's really where it becomes more of a branding exercise, right? So right there in the service drive, have you checked this out on Yelp, right? You have the window stickers you can get at the back end of biz.yelp.com. You get the point of sale material like table tents, right, and all that material. That's great stuff to have around in the dealership. Why? Because it keeps people's, it's keeping in front of mind, right? Maybe they go online, maybe they become a Yelp user, right? Those are the things you really want to achieve, right? So because if someone goes online, checks it out, right, after their service visit, the likelihood that they come back an active Yelp user, right, is probably much higher, right? they're going to be much more active. So, and then the likelihood when they come back for that second or third service visit, the likelihood of that review being recommended is going to be much higher as well. So it's all about creating and cultivating Yelp users, and it's part of playing the game with Yelp, but it's how you have to do it. So it's all about getting people to participate and be an active Yelp user. Now, that's the hard kind of part here. So what I'm going to share with you is sort of like a secret way that you can use to identify who in your CRM, which customers in your CRM are actually active Yelp users. So how does this benefit you? Well, it benefits you in a couple ways. Number one, you can filter those customers in CRM or segment those customers in CRM to receive different types of communications. So instead of the communication of, review us on Google, review us here, it's, hey, check us out on Yelp, see what we're doing on Yelp, see why others love us on Yelp, right? So it's informing them that you are on Yelp and you're targeting your communications to an active Yelp user, right? So that's one way. That's the most effective way. The other way is also that you are then able to, if you do this, say you take this information, you document it into CRM, right? So if you have someone who comes onto the service drive, right? Schedules his appointment. You get a customer. His name's Jim. Jim comes in, right? And the service advisor looks at CRM profile and sees that customer is an active Yelp customer, right? They're an active Yelper, right? That service advisor can then say, hey, Jim, by the way, have you checked in, right? Are you on Yelp, right? Jim, are you on Yelp? Yeah, I am. Awesome. Well, great stuff. Have you checked in? Oh, no, I haven't. I keep forgetting, right? Well, one of the things about check-in is you are allowed to invite a customer to check into your dealership, right? And the beauty of that is if a customer checks into your dealership, Yelp will remind them to review your business, right? So Yelp will do the hard lifting for you in that regard. So what we're doing here is we're getting intelligence on our customer base to identify who's active Yelp users, and then be able to then target them through communications, but also reinforce their user activity at the store, right? To ensure they're active, they're participating, and we're getting most reviews that are sticky, right? So how do you do this? Well, I'm going to go through this sort of briefly. There's a more detailed description of this in the handout that we'll be providing at the end. So I'm going to be providing you with a handout that has the breakdown of the step-by-step on how you achieve this. But in a nutshell, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be exporting your customer data from CRM into an Excel file. You're going to remove everything but email addresses. You're going to open up your dealership Gmail account, and you're going to upload that to that CSV file to your Gmail contacts, right? Under your dealership's Gmail account. Then what you're going to do from there is you register an account with Yelp under your dealership's Gmail address, right? You just register a fake account. Then there's a little button at the top of the navigation called Find Friends. So if you click that button, and then you select the option in your email contacts, Find Friends in your email contacts, you'll then choose the provider Gmail, right? So what that does, those of you who are familiar with this on other sites, is it will port in all the Gmail addresses from your Gmail, and it will display for you all the accounts that have been registered with the email addresses you provided. So what you now do, and this isn't something that will take like 20 minutes. It's something that you want to break up over time. So segment your customer base by the best to the worst, and start in like 100, 200 increments. You can approach it that way. But now what you're going to do is you're going to get a list of all the customers who have active profiles, and now you can then go ahead and make a note of that in CRM in order to start segmenting those customers that you know are the active Yelp users, to them when the next time they come in, invite them to go online and review you on Yelp.
Gosh, isn't there an easier way to get 200 customers at a time into this format? That seems like a lot of work.
Well, the thing is, you can do is you can do as many as you want, but it would take you a while, especially for us dealerships who've got 40,000, 100,000 email addresses. It's better to then segment the customer base and start with your most loyal customers first. So the ones that really love you, right? So that way, if you identify people within that segment, you can approach them. You can approach them in a way that they will go out of their way for you and review you, right? So, that's why I recommend doing it. You can do it like 300, 400. I wouldn't go above 5 just because it's, you don't want to spend all day doing it. But it's something to do. Task someone, every Monday or every Tuesday,
right.
To do in the morning, to go through and then update that list. And then at the end of the month, right, you export the list of customers that have been added into CRM, and then go through this process here. So that way you don't have to do a whole bulk upload. You're just doing it every month.
Okay.
And then documenting it back in CRM.
Okay, because I got like, for instance, one of our listeners, Jason. He's very upset right now. Jason says, there is no way I'm adding to another step to what we already do with our customers through social media and the other relevant review sites. This is way too much for one review site. So he's a little bit upset about this because he's also on the mindset too, if I already have reviews on Yelp that suck, and those were his words, why would I want to bring more people to see my Yelp business page? Now, before you answer that, I'm just curious. If a dealership does take the time to put in these email addresses, and then one of those people writes you a 5-star review, does that now mean that 5-star review carries more weight than other reviews that might come into your dealership?
Yeah. So let me preface this by saying what we're doing here is we're identifying customers that are existing customers that have done business with you, right? Probably more than a couple times, have done business with you that are active. So what you're looking at as you're combing through the list of profiles that have been registered on Yelp using your customer email addresses, you're looking for the profiles that have activity. You're looking for the profiles that have 10, 20 plus reviews, that are active participants. You're not adding everybody. You're not making note of everybody, whether or not they have reviews or not. You're looking for the people that are actively participating, right? Because why that's important is that is what plays into the algorithm, right? So if, for instance, you have a customer that you ask, go online and review us on Yelp, they go online to review you on Yelp, right? And we talked about time between account registration and publishing the review, right? Language, the profile not being complete, right? The likelihood that person comes back before the next 5 to 6 months is extremely low. Maybe they won't come back for another 2 to 3 years, right? If it's a car purchase. There's no way that review will go from not recommended to recommended, right? Regardless of how positive it is, because Yelp cannot authenticate whether or not that person is real.
So if somebody goes, one of your greatest customers goes on to Yelp just because you asked them to, and the only great review they have ever written, the only review they've ever written on Yelp is for you, that practically holds no weight because they're not a particular, a quote-unquote Yelper.
Well, if you think it's all about authenticating the user. So if we look at it from an objective point of view, right? If I am online and I'm Yelp and I see this review, right? It's 5 stars, right? The account was registered, the review was published near the time of account creation. The profile has no information in it that it lets us authenticate that this person is an actual human being and not a robot, right? And more than likely, the profile picture isn't, you know, it hasn't been filled in, or even if it has, if the rest of the profile hasn't been filled out, then it's just a picture, right?
Right.
So if you look at that at face value, what does it look like? Well, it looks like a fake review. It could look like a fake review.
Okay.
So that's where Yelp says,
We don't want
we're
no
going to
fake
put that
reviews
into
around
not
here.
recommended because we can't authenticate whether or not this is a legitimate review.
So if that reviewer, in order for it to be sticky, that reviewer would have to place what, like 5 reviews?
It depends. The threshold typically out there that I've heard that kind of gets tossed around is like 10, 10 or so. But here's where it gets interesting. I was out in Orlando, Orlando a couple months ago, and I was having this conversation with a gentleman who said he he logged in Yelp, he used Yelp for a while, right? He had like 20 reviews, and it was until the 12th one that all my reviews became recommended. And I said, and then he said, I just stopped using it. I just stopped using Yelp. And I came back earlier this year. It had probably been like two years or so, and all my reviews were not recommended. And that's why I said, did you complete your profile? Right? And he said, no. Right? Did you have any other user activity? No. Okay. Well, the reasoning for that is because Yelp could only verify the authenticity of you, the user, in that small window of time that you were actively participating. So if you take that small window, let's call it 2 months of actively reviewing businesses, and then look at the last, that within the frame of 3 years, that's a very small window of user activity that Yelp can authenticate, right? So in these 2 months, this person reviewed a lot of businesses and then just went away. How do we know this is legitimate? We don't, which is why they didn't take it and move it to not recommended.
Okay. Okay. I got to tell you, we have so many people writing in right now. I mean, my screen is full with angry listeners. They're not angry at you, but they're angry at the Yelp algorithm, the Yelp process. And so we're going to try and work through those during the Q&A session. But
yeah, we'll get to that pretty quick.
I can't wait for you to hear the frustration in their voices. And I have to say, I don't know that it's unfounded. I see the value of Yelp. You've explained it to us. I'm really, really concerned with what we're asking these poor listeners to do.
Well, these are just ways. These are just ways. In the end, it's all about providing an exceptional experience in the store, right?
Right.
It's all about happy customers, right? It's all about happy customers. Right? Now, Yelp is a different animal. Yelp is important, right? So if you spend an hour of your time, and with this type of service, and hopefully some of the listeners don't think I meant you do this manually. All you're doing is taking the email list and uploading the email list to Gmail, right? And then clicking this button here, right? That's all you have to do. After that, is up to you whether or not you want to pencil in.
Okay, so they're not like, you don't have to put them in one at a time.
No, you're not putting them in one at a time.
Okay.
You're taking chunks, which is why one of the reasons why from a time constraint it's combing through the list, but also you can clog up the system if you put too many email addresses in. You're not manually inputting anything. Heck no. That's a waste of time. What this is a quick and simple way of getting a snapshot of your customer base and identify which of them or who among them are active Yelp users. So that way, if you do have negative Yelp reviews, now you know who your great customers are that really love you. They're active on Yelp. Let's put them into a separate email list. Let's send them Yelp-only communication after they service or purchase a vehicle and see if we can't get them to review us on Yelp.
Right.
Or maybe they don't know we're on Yelp, right? That way you're changing over, you're improving your online reputation, right? Not only that, but you're getting now you have a way of, you have a Yelp audience that are to be consistently reviewing your business on Yelp, right? And that that is what will help rise you in those rankings in terms of, appearing in, the suggested search results, like with Apple, right? To increase your ranking on Yelp itself, right? Improve people's perception of you when they look on Google and they see, 4.9 with 200 reviews, and then they look over here on Bing or Yahoo, or they pick up their phone and do a search for you, and they see, wow, 30 reviews, 5 stars. Right? That looks a lot better than 4.9, 200 reviews on Google, and 25 reviews at a 2 rating or a 1.1.5, right, on Yelp, right? And then it's like, whoa, something's not right here, right? Why do they have such great reviews over here and not so great reviews over here, right? So that's why it's all about making sure we're showing up and making sure that we're looking better than everyone else at all times.
I got you. Okay, we're way over time, and we really have to get to the Q&A session. So I'm gonna push you to hurry up along.
I'll blow through this. All right. So in the end, one thing you can do if you have positive reviews that are not recommended, right? One thing Yelp does is on their not recommended page, they no index that page. They have a no index tag, which means that content is not indexed, which means that you can take that content. Right? Take that content and use it on your site without incurring a duplicate content penalty. Right? So that's something you can do with those positive reviews that are going to waste, that everyone's frustrated about. So use positive reviews that are not recommended. You can put them on your site without incurring a duplicate content penalty. Right? Next thing you want to make sure you're doing is responding to reviews. Right? Responding to reviews is also part of the optimization because it shows you're actively participating in the community, and it makes people feel appreciated for taking the time to review you, right? They took time out of their busy day to review your business, right? We should reciprocate with that, with thanking them and showing our appreciation for their feedback, right? So I know you have a poll question.
Yes, I do. All right, audience, real quick. This last poll question is on the screen for you now. We want to know, do you currently have a process in your dealership to monitor and respond to your online customer reviews? Is somebody in there doing it or nobody? Well, let's find out. Hopefully one of these answers fits. Yes, an outside vendor takes care of that for us, 100%. Yes, a vendor monitors it, and then we will respond. Yes, we have a dedicated person at the store who does all of that. We aren't consistent. Whoever is working is going to take care of it. Or the last answer, no. So do you currently have a process in place at your dealership to monitor and respond to online customer reviews? Once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll, share the results, and button up this webinar and get to your amazing questions that you have. I got to tell you, I don't remember having this many questions on a webinar before. You have a ton of questions, all right? So, Jeff, if you're ready, I'll close this poll and share the results.
All right.
All right, here we go. Oh, and that thing is doing it again on your computer. I don't know what's going on. All right, 7% of today's audience said yes, an outside vendor takes care of that for us 100%. 21% of today's audience said yes, a vendor monitors it, and then we respond. The majority, 52% of today's audience, said yes, they have a dedicated person at the store who takes care of that. Awesome. 7% of today's audience said that they admit they're not consistent, and whoever happens to be working at the time they see a customer review gets to take care of that. And 14% of today's audience said no, they don't have a process in place to monitor and respond to online customer reviews. Jeff?
That's great. No, I see the majority of people who actually have a dedicated person in the store. That's phenomenal.
I think that was higher than you were expecting, right?
I was. It is actually. That's great.
Excellent.
That is really great.
Okay, your computer screen is locked up again, unfortunately. I don't know why it does that.
Awesome.
I know, right? We're at the home stretch right now.
Yeah. So some of the things we'll leave you. One of the last things we'll leave you is when we talk about responding. Responding is really important. Like we talked about, responding to reviews, showing appreciation. Because if someone takes the time to review you on Yelp, right, and you're showing your you're sharing your feedback on Yelp, and you're showing your appreciation of it, and you're thanking them, right? The likelihood that they're going to do it again is much higher, right? They're going to feel good about it, right? They got recognized for it. So here's some quick do's and don'ts when we talk about reviews, right? You want to you want to respond. Make sure you are responding, especially if they're negative. Now, if they are negative, make sure you calm, you think it through. Right? If there is an opportunity, right? So in the review, if there's some type of story, right, there's a marketing opportunity that you see available to you, make sure you take advantage of that, right? Make sure you take advantage of, sharing good customer stories, right? Good customer, promote those good customer feedback stories. If you do encounter a negative review, right, make sure your first goal is to take it offline. Do not have a back and forth conversation online. You do not want to have that. It's messy, no one wins, and it's all over your page, not theirs, right? So make sure you take it offline. And then really importantly, some of common sense, but not listening, make sure you give them what they want within reason. Now, give them what they want within reason is going to be different. What within reason means is different for every dealership, right? So you have to determine, this is where people say people are blackmailing me and extorting me. Well, that's where you have to determine what you want to do, because, providing $200 floor mats to a customer might be pocket change for one dealer, where that might be a lot more money from a value standpoint to another dealer, right? So you have to determine, is this worth the customer being upset about, or can we just go ahead and give them what they want? But again, that's for your dealership to decide on how you go through that judgment call, right? And then you don't want to be defensive or critical, right? Make sure you are not defensive or critical online. It does not come across well. Don't cut and paste responses. So if every customer review is unique, every response should be unique. And then don't always assume you know what the customer wants. Make sure you're listening to what they're saying. So with that said, we talk about Yelp. We talk about when we talk about the importance of Yelp. There's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of opportunity out there to really capture additional customers through visibility and improving your online reputation. Yelp offers so many different avenues, or has so many different avenues of visibility and awareness, that for us as car dealers to not spend as much time, not spend a whole lot of time on it, especially when we spend all our time on Google, when you look at the percentage of people who have iPhones and Apple devices, right? And there are a huge segment of the population uses Bing in Yahoo, right? Those things are very important. They're all pieces of the puzzle here. So I hope you got a lot out of this, and you followed some of the steps. I know some of them might be more complex than others, but in the end, I know you'll come out winning. You'll come out winning on top with that. So here's some suggested resources for you. Number one being the Yelp Find Friends handout that Eliana has available to download.
That's right. Audience, if you go into your GoToWebinar interface, you'll see there's a new feature called Handouts. If you click on Handouts, you'll see one of the handouts is in there already, and it is very, very helpful. Find Friends handout. You can download it immediately.
Yeah, so a couple other ones, Moz Local, Mike Blumenthal, great guy, has a great blog. He's a great way of keeping up to date on local search and how it's evolving, and then Yelp's guidelines. Some action items for you. Make sure I would use Moz Local to identify inconsistencies and duplicates. They have a free tool that you can check your listing to identify any inconsistencies and duplicates, and then determine for yourself whether or not you want to sign up. Make sure you set up and claim and optimize your Yelp listing if you haven't done so. If make sure you go back and check a look at your Yelp listing and implement some of the things that we talked about. Use the Yelp Find Friends to identify customers. Give it a shot. See how many customers you can identify that are Yelp users. Right? These are small little. These are efforts that might seem big, but they make such an impact when you can identify those active ones, and now you're getting consistent reviews from them. And then for those that don't, I highly recommend dedicating someone in store to monitor and respond to reviews, especially for Yelp. It's such a vocal community, it's an engaged community, and not having someone in store to monitor that and be able to take quick action can really hurt. So the next best action I would be dedicate someone in store.
All right, as I already said, we got plenty of questions from the audience already. So we're going to get to those in just a minute. Audience, thank you so much for your very interesting questions. Jeff, they're not going to be easy on you, babe. I'm just letting you know right now, so gear up. All right. But before we get to your questions, we got some little bit of fun to take care of. I wish I had some music behind me, but I don't. But if you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced that our good friends at Command Z Automotive Consulting, they're giving away an awesome prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a Motorola Moto 360 23 millimeter stainless steel smartwatch. That's right. This beautiful timepiece not only gives you important updates at a glance, it also tracks your health and fitness. Along with your heart rate, it responds to your voice. All you have to do is speak to it and you get any of the info that you need. What an awesome prize. I am so jealous I am not available to win this prize. But you know what? You are. All you have to do is answer a simple question about the presentation. So everyone get ready, get to your keyboards. First one to write in a correct response is going to be walking away with this very cool prize today. Good luck, everyone. Of course, as per usual, vendors, we do appreciate you, but we're going to ask that you please sit this one out. This prize is, of course, intended for dealership personnel only. Here we go, everyone. Good luck. This is an awesome prize. I can't wait to see who's going to win this. All right, here we go. This is not an easy one, by the way. You had to really been paying attention for this. Earlier in the broadcast, Jeff showed you an example of a dealership who failed to show up in Apple Maps because they had listed themselves on Yelp with an incorrect name. What was the correct name of that dealership? Well, I know, I told you it was going to be a hard one. I'm going to give you a hint. It's a 3-word answer, and spelling does count. Yeah, something Honda doesn't help. Guess again. It was something Honda, though. So one of the words is Honda. Hopefully you guys remember who that was that really they spelled their name wrong. Nope, that's not it either. Ooh, someone's getting a little closer. Hey, Bernadette, you made it. No one got it. That was a tough question. Oh, dude, a vendor got it. He wrote in, he's like, I'm a vendor, I can't win, but is this it? And yes, it was. That vendor knows it. Ryan, I see you. What do we do, Jeff?
Well, wow, I think what we should do is
Yeah.
we're obviously going to give something away here. So let's.
Do you have another question in your back pocket we can whip out?
Yeah, but it'll be markedly easier. So get ready.
Okay.
People.
I'm ready, Jeff. Lay it on
All
them.
right.
All right, audience, you get a second chance to win this awesome prize. By the way, the answer to the question was Matt Castrucci, Honda. So, wait. Oh my God, she wrote it in before I said it. How did you know that, Tamara? Okay, she did write it in, but I already said that we were going to do another question. I'm so sorry, Tamara. We have to do another question. All right, Jeff, are you ready?
Yeah. So let me finish the question.
Okay.
And then you can answer it, all right? Okay, so according to a study by Lightspeed and GMI, up to blank of customers would be deterred from doing business with your dealership after seeing just 3 negative reviews.
Oh, that's a great question. I knew that one too. I didn't even have to take notes on that one. All right, let's see who the first person who wrote in the correct response was, and I can't believe it, but it was Tamara after all. Tamara Swats, you got fast fingers, girl, 67%. Congratulations. Oh, well, that was fitting. I mean, she did have the name for the other one. That's funny. Tamara Swats,
Karma's on her
congratulations.
side.
She's very, very excited. Tamara, write in. We need your mailing address. We need your dealership name, all that happy stuff, okay? Write that in. Audience, don't you worry. You know, we give away awesome prizes every week on our DealerOn webinars, so come on back. Try us out at another DealerOn webinar. You never know. It could be your day to walk away with the awesome, cool prize. All right. Ah, la, 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 la. I know your name, Tamara. What dealership are you from? Of course, thank you everyone for playing along. We want to, of course, say congratulations to today's winner, Tamara Swats. Of course, we got to thank our good friends at Command Z Automotive Consulting for their incredible generosity. And Jeff, if you have another one of those watches laying around and you just want to lay it on your favorite webinar goddess, you just let me know, okay, because I'm here. All right?
I'll shoot your way. You're number one on my list.
Thanks, Dave. Just in case you have another one. All right. Tamara's from Legacy Toyota. Congratulations, Tamara. All right. Let's get to some of these questions. We have so many questions. All right. Jason is not the only one who pointed this out, but he's the first one who said it, so I'm going to point out. Jason said, I read in automotive news that cars.com has the most dealership reviews. He's not the only one who said it, so he's not the only one who read that article in automotive news. Jeff, do you have any feedback as to where that information came, that cars.com has the most dealership reviews?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I would. The source that I received that information from was actually from a manufacturer that I did some work for. So that information was verified at that time, which was about a month or so ago, a couple months ago. Now I know with the change of cars.com in terms of how they evaluate reviews and allowing the influx of reviews, it's very, very, very I'd say it could be possible that they generated more reviews than Yelp in that time frame. But when talking about how many reviews we talk about automotive reviews, I don't know, I haven't seen the automotive news article, and did they include Yelp into that list, or was Yelp not included in that list and it was just automotive specific review sites?
That
I don't know. That's something.
Jason said yes, they did.
Oh, they did? Okay. Well, that's the thing where on the slide deck you can, I put the source of where I got those numbers from, which is yelp.com/fact sheet, and you can go there and you can definitely verify, or if I made a mistake somewhere, I'll definitely I figure it out as well. So I apologize if there was any confusion on that.
No problem, no problem. Okay, well, we're going to see if we can get a little bit more clarification on that. Let's keep going with some of these awesome questions. Okay. Well, in the beginning, when you were talking about all those reviews that are on Yelp, we had a lot of comments on them. Melissa, for instance, she says, do those 3,320,000 reviews include filtered reviews? And then Daryl wrote in, well, what percentage of those are all bad reviews? 90%? Because he feels like the only people who leave reviews on Yelp are bad reviewers.
Yeah. So, to go off kind of the answers to the earlier question, the information I got on that when we talk about, are they bad reviews? Are they filter reviews? It's just of the total amount of accumulative reviews, automotive represents 4% of that total. So if you log in, if you go to the yelp.com/fact sheet, they show you a graph. It's a chart. It shows you the percentage of each individual business category. So that's where I sourced that material or sourced that information, but it did not give me a breakdown in terms of filtered versus unfiltered.
Gotcha.
Which is why I kind of gave you a guess of what I thought it might be for automotive, knowing that they publicly do say that 75% of their reviews are recommended, which is a little bit of a misconception when we talk about automotive, because the review filter or evaluation process is much more strict. And because of the way dealerships invite customers to go online, plays right into that review filter.
Gotcha. All right. I'm just going to let everyone know I am in the middle of a really severe thunderstorm right now, so I'm going to hold out hope that my internet stays connected, and we're just going to keep on trucking along, okay? But if I get disconnected, that would be why. All right? All right, your next question comes to you from Jason. Jason has been very, very active during today's presentation. Jason, thank you so much for being here today. He's been like the, let's say, the conscience of the entire audience today.
Well, you can give him my cell phone number,
Yeah.
and he can give me a call if you want.
Well, Jason says, so Yelp is now a necessary evil. How much does it cost to make sure your positive reviews are always prominent? Because if I do not spend enough, my positive reviews get pushed to the back, and then the bad reviews are moved up and forward. He's not the only one who feels that
Jason,
way. Somebody
actually,
what?
yeah. So here's one of this is where the perception of Yelp extorting
Yeah,
businesses comes into
Rocky.
play.
Rocky said, is this process
So
predicated on paying Yelp's monthly extortion fee? Ouch.
yeah, and this is my so what's for those listening, what he's talking about is when you pay for Yelp. So when you pay to advertise on Yelp and you get a prominent listing, Yelp they will tend to relax that evaluation filter, right, and allow some of those positive reviews to come into the recommended section, so that they appear now. So instead of maybe having one review at 3 stars, right, now you have 5 reviews or 6 reviews at a 4 or 5 star, right? Well, they do that, I mean, from the standpoint of, from an advertising standpoint, so you'll get clicks, because if people were paying for, Yelp advertising but never got any clicks, and no one paid for Yelp advertising. So one of the reasons they do that is to make the listing look more enticing. So what ends up happening then is if you stop paying for the advertising, a lot of times, and I've heard the stories as well, and I've seen it myself, right, those reviews will go from recommended to not recommended. So what I would say to a dealer that might not have the, might be in the, what's the word called, doesn't have the best reputation, maybe 3 stars, whatever, like maybe a couple reviews, maybe, but it's 2-star, maybe it's something you might want to consider. Maybe if you have a lot of positive reviews that are not, well, here's what I'm going to say is, if you have a lot of positive reviews that are not recommended, say, okay, maybe we will advertise on Yelp for 6 months, and in the meantime, we're going to identify customers who are active Yelpers. We're going to try to cultivate some new Yelp users of our own customers, and once we get solid footholding on that, right, and we're getting customers to review us, then we can scale off, we can turn off the advertising, knowing that we have consistent reviews that we feel confident they're going to stick and be recommended.
Okay. I'm laughing because Bernadette wrote in, it sounds similar to protection from the mafia.
No, I mean, I'm not advocating for Yelp. So, I mean, trust me, I've been there on the dealer side. I know how frustrating Yelp is. One thing I do recommend, well, we can go on to the other questions if there's other questions.
Oh, if. Jason, again, he wrote in, Yelp is, and you know me, I'm Switzerland on this. I like getting the information out there, and I know dealerships are having a hard time with this. So I'm just putting this out there because I thought it was humorous. But he says, Yelp is just like TrueCar. It's legal extortion. Ouch. That's tough, Jason. You're tough. And
yeah.
He says, yeah, it's whack, and he just doesn't want to be a part of it. And Jason, I understand how you're feeling. Uh, he's not the only one, though. So a lot of people don't understand why Yelp would put this kind of an algorithm together and make it so darn difficult for dealerships. Susan says, we have the same feeling as Jason. Do you hear that thunder? It's ridiculous. We don't like the idea of directing people to our reviews when more often than not it's the horrible reviews that Yelp allows to be recommended. Also frustrated with the required work to ensure a review gets the attention needed. We have 64 of 70 reviews in non-recommended for one store. Most of them are 5 stars. And many of them are Yelpers with more than one review posted, but the only ones that show are the negative ones.
Yeah, I would say if I were to go in and look at those not recommended reviews, I'm sure what I would see are 5 stars, maybe 2 or 3 reviews. The review for your dealership, if it was the first and only one, you can check how long that person's been a Yelper, and you can check when that review is published. I bet they're very close. The 150 some odd dealers that I spoke around the country with, helping them understand online reputation and training. And I looked at each and every one of them. That was one of the. I mean, it was guaranteed. It was almost guaranteed. Now, on the topic of negative reviews. So when we talk about negative reviews, there's a little twist to this one. Negative reviews, it really depends, number one, on the language, right? So they look at language, right? So if anyone mentioned, is it derogatory? Is there hate, speech per se? Is it swear words, et cetera? Like, is it really slanted far left, right? Or in terms of the negativity, right? People even go into, like, if people's names are mentioned, or if they're mentioned by name, so to speak, right? So it depends on the type of language used there, right? It also depends on the interactions on the review. So one of the things that can bring a review from not recommended to recommended, or not recommended to recommended, is if someone goes in into your not recommended and sees some of the reviews that are there, and say, oh man, I had the bad experience here too, or this, or what have you. Like, they came to share their bad experience, and they're reading other negative experiences to see what people say. So they're clicking this tip is helpful, this tip is useful, this tip is cool, so to speak. And that type of activity on that review can move it from not recommended to recommended. Now, here's another thing I'll share with you, but I can't. I don't know. I don't have anything definitive to prove it. It's a thought that I'm trying to look in. I'm looking into. But one thing I believe, and I've seen it first. And this is something why I'm looking into it, because I've seen it firsthand. Is typically with a negative review, a customer will publish that review multiple places around the web, right? Because in the end, their main goal is to be heard. Like, they want to be heard, right? So it's not unlikely that you'll see the same review published on Google, and then published on Yelp, and then published on DealerOn, right? In all these multiple areas. That type of behavior doesn't really happen with a positive review, right? That isn't there. Now,
right.
Why I bring this up is Yelp, with all the resources they have and all the API integrations that they have, if someone publishes a negative review on Google, right, and they have their Google Plus profile, right, filled out, and it's verified, or it's they publish that same review on Yelp, or excuse me, on Facebook, right, and they are able to then take a look at, okay, the review published on the same business around the same time was near identical. The accounts that were registered were using the same email address, right? So the Gmail address of that customer was used to sign up for Yelp, right? And that's associated with his Gmail account, right? So what I'm trying to get at is, one of the things I do think is that Yelp is able to then take a look around the web to verify, to authenticate somebody through their behavior elsewhere, in order to then verify that person as being credible or reliable, in the sense of they're an actual human being, not necessarily their review.
Right.
And then say, okay, well, this is going from not recommended to recommended, right? So that's one theory that I do have when it comes to negative reviews.
Well, Kristen, she is responding to you, and she says, well, let's be real. Yelp just plays duck, duck, goose on what comments to show under recommended. So I don't think that she is alone in that. It's still a mystery. But let's get to some of these other questions, because we could debate the usefulness of the algorithm that Yelp uses all day long, I think. Let's go to this one.
Let me say this before we talk about the negative reviews and algorithm quick. One thing you can do, and this is something I didn't get to in the webinar. One thing that I really suggest, and this is something that's not mentioned and gets overlooked all the time. Every major metro has a Yelp community manager, like a physical person who lives in the city, right? They live in the city, right? So what I recommend is search on go on Google, search Yelp, and then your nearest metro, or your town, right? And what will come up is the Twitter handle, because every one of those community managers has its own Twitter handle. Okay, so find the Twitter handle, open the Twitter handle up, and a lot of times they'll mention their real name, or they will do first name and the first initial of their last name. So what you do with that is go into LinkedIn, search for that person, right, and then send them a message saying, hey, I would love, my dealership's looking to have a bigger Yelp presence. We're really looking into really engaging the community. But you're putting on a dog and pony show, because at the end of the day, what you want to do is make sure this person's on your side. So when you have these negative reviews, or the faithless people at Yelp support aren't helping you, right? You now have somebody in your corner, a real life human being in your city, right, that works for Yelp, that can now help you and help you resolve those issues, right?
Oh, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that they had somebody like that in every big town.
Yeah, they do.
Wow.
So
Can they help you move some of your positive reviews to the recommended side?
No, there's some things that can't. That's out of their control. It's no different than who controls the algorithm at Yelp. It's completely separate than the people on the front lines. It's no different than with Google. Like some people at Google, not everybody knows the algorithm. Very few people know what goes in. Not everyone knows every piece of it, right?
Right.
So you might know a piece of it. You might know a piece of it. So, like what they're your advocate, right? You now have a Yelp advocate, right? So, and you want that person on your side, because now that person has direct line to Yelp, and now you are not going through a faceless support line. You're actually going through a community manager at a large metro, right? That is setting up a request.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that they well known. Like, those community managers' job is to engage and manage the user and business community. When I was at Lebanon Ford, that's one of the things that I did with I met the guy, our Yelp guy from Cincinnati. Great dude, right? I had problems, called him up, took him to lunch, right? We had a great time, got invited to Yelp events, got to know the Yelp community a little better, right? So that will help you in terms of really getting an advocate for you. But don't go to that lunch and just tear Yelp apart. What your goal is to make them into an advocate, so to speak.
I hear you. Okay. Tim had a great question. He says, is there a shelf life for reviews? Do they eventually fall off? Or they stay there all the time?
There is. Yeah, so Yelp along with some of the other review sites, they recognize that businesses evolve, right? They can get better as well as they can get worse. So Yelp recognizes that, and that's one of the things where over time, as you're getting consistent reviews, right? Because consistency is really the strongest indicator of a quality business, right? It's the strongest indicator of, man, this business is providing a lot of value, right? And people are consistently reviewing them as a result, and speaking about them and talking about them. So when those signals become apparent over time, yes, they do drop off. Do I have a date? Do I have a time? No, I don't. But they will drop off. They will fall, because at that point in time, Yelp will say, this review or this is not an accurate representation of the business at this current time. Right? So we want more people to see this business because we want to serve up this result, because we know this is a quality business.
Right. Okay. Great question, Tim, by the way. Thank you so much. Let's get to pictures, because we had a number of people who are interested in that. Avery wrote in, how do we motivate our team to get on board with taking pics? They just want to sell cars. Karina says, getting other employees to take photos, especially of themselves, is another problem all its own to us. Any suggestions as to how to get everyone on board for something like this? And then Lisa wrote in, any recommendations to get our own photos to the front without deleting customer photos? Because I've tried deleting and re-adding our photos, and Yelp doesn't help me with that either. So we have a lot of questions about pictures.
Okay, so two of them are pretty similar, right, in terms of how you get people to take. Okay, so that's why one of the things. This is something that I implemented when I was at my store. This is something that when I consult and we talk about photos, this is the process I give. And so when you start off, it's one photo a day, right? So it's one photo a day, right? And now I understand, and I've been there, right? Some people are, I don't have time for that. Well, this is where you're going to leverage the rock stars or the people who get it in your dealership, right? So you might have one salesperson who, might happen to be younger, I don't know, right? Or maybe he's older, but he understands how the internet works, right? And understands visibility and reputation, right? So what's going to happen is if that person's participating and doing this stuff, and you're uploading these photos online of this guy all over the place, or these two individuals, or his work, he's in all these photos, what's going to end up happening is they're going to say, why is this person always in, these photos? Why can't I be in them? Well, he's doing it himself, right? If you want to be online, if you want to be, out there using our dealership's platform to kind of build, a presence for yourself, right? This is what you need to do. Starts with one photo a day, right? You think you can do that? Right? Well, so that's where it really starts. It starts with leveraging the people that understand, and get it, and then from there, people will start following that once they see the results of that. So that's where I would start. I would start doing that, and it wasn't just sales staff. It was lot techs, right? It was people in service. I mean, you don't have to just do sales or service. It's any employee.
And who knows? Maybe somebody at the dealership has an eye for photography, and they could go around and take these cool pictures. You don't know. I mean, I'm sure
it's not something where you're
if you have 100 people working at the
like,
dealership, somebody's got to be good at photography.
Yeah.
Okay, the other question was Lisa's. She says, any recommendations to get our own photos to the front without deleting customer photos? I've tried deleting and re-adding our photos, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, so once you have a certain amount, Yelp rotates them. So they rotate those photos. So, and I've fiddled with that a bunch. So like if you want your photos to be static, right, to be the ones that are displayed, that's where you want to only upload the amount that allow. I think it's like 3 or 4 or something. And then from one of those gets selected as the kind of the tick on the maps. So that's one of the reasons why, as you're taking these photos, as you're taking these new photos and getting fresh content, and you're kind of grading them and finding the good ones and the bad ones, that's where you can start replacing ones that maybe you don't want to show up with better ones, right? And over time, you've got a whole set of photos that you don't really care which ones show up, or feature or not, because they're all high quality. So that's where I would just continue to add and continue to shape what photos you do have up there and update those consistently.
Right.
But yeah, there's no real, no matter what order you put them in, they'll rotate.
Interesting. All right, Lisa, I feel your pain there. All right, let's get to, our next question comes from Kristen. She says, do you think that replying to positive, quote unquote, not recommended comments would bump them into recommended reviews? Almost all of our positive reviews, unfortunately, don't stick, which I don't feel is fair or accurate. This one comes from Kristen. Do replying to those positive, not recommended reviews help at all, Jeff?
Well, I'm not going to say, I don't think, it depends. I think it really, it depends, right? It depends. I've not seen that happen, but it's not to say it can't happen. But it just depends on if it's not recommended. The person who left the review more than likely isn't active on Yelp, so the likelihood that they come back and actually engage with that conversation is probably pretty slim. And if it were that easy to just reply to your reviews to get them to populate, then everyone would be doing it, and then Yelp would have a problem on their hands. So what I would suggest is maybe an alternative strategy for you would be to go through those lists of positive, not recommended reviews and see if you can identify some of those, maybe, because a lot of times people use their real name, right? Especially if they've taken the time to go online and publish a review and sign up for the account and publish the review because, they like you, right? So they're going to use their real name a lot of times because they want you to know, they did it. So what you're going to do, I would suggest doing, is go through that list and see if you can't identify the really good customers, like the you know these guys or these girls or these people are like your best customers. It's the person who comes in every day, for the cup of coffee and the service drive, or stands around the showroom and talks your arm off while you got all the stuff you got to do and you can't get away from them, right? It's the kind of the regular type, your best customers, right? See if you can't find them, right? And then what I would recommend is reach out to them and say, hey, we sat through this Yelp webinar and we were checking our Yelp page and you wrote this fantastic review and it's not being displayed. Would you mind, doing 1, 2, 3 for us? This is what was recommended for it to appear, right? Now, this is why I say your best customers, because if these people are coming to your showroom all the time and, they're kind of there, right, they're invested in you, which is they're going to be willing to take that step to do that for you. So that's what's one possible way that I would recommend doing is going in and say, hey, could you, complete your profile or connect your Facebook page, right? So those types of steps can help add that authentication, right? And then the likelihood of that person's review appearing will be much higher.
Right. Okay. Great question, Kristen, by the way. Thank you so much. We really got to start closing out the show, so let's get through a few of these as quickly as possible. Okay, Jeff? Ed says, what percentage of iOS users have added Google Maps as an upgrade from Apple Maps? Jeff, I don't know if that's information that you have on hand. Did you come across that?
I don't have the percentage of iOS users who have both who have downloaded Google Maps.
Because to upgrade from Apple Maps.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot. I mean, especially
Daryl wrote in probably a majority of them.
Yeah, I mean, I have Google Maps along with Apple Maps, and the one thing though to consider though is that when we take a look at, I guess the signal there is when you look at the ComScore data that suggests, Apple Maps is the 11th most used application out there, right? That's a telltale sign that it's being utilized. And because Apple Maps is so integrated into the iOS ecosystem, right, it's very difficult to get away from it entirely, right? So that's where, I'm sure there are many people that do, and but at the same time, you want to ensure whether or not they're using Google Maps or Apple Maps or searching for you on Safari or searching for you on Chrome on a PC, right, that your reputation is consistent, right, and it's something that you are proud of, and it's something that will stand out and differentiate you from the competition in order to make you look like the better choice and almost reverse apply that 67% rule against your competition.
Right.
So that's really the essence of the conversation.
Okay. All right. Well, Wes, I gotta love this guy. Wes wrote in, I like a good challenge. Good luck, Wes. He's so funny. All right. Last couple of questions. Well, this isn't really a question, but Jason, again, came on. He says, yep, this pretty much confirms it for me. So now we have to brand for Yelp to encourage people to basically become Yelpers. I hate Yelp, but I will still solicit reviews like I do all the other review sites, and I'm going to take my chances with Yelp. Jason, we wish you the best of luck, man. Okay, last questions come to you from Daryl. Daryl has a number of them, so I'm just going to read them off, okay? He says, how many reviews does a Yelp reviewer have to write before they show up on page 1? We have so many 5-star reviews stuck on the not recommended page, and many 1-star reviews that go straight to page 1. Obviously, Daryl is very frustrated. Do you happen to know that offhand before I go to the next couple questions?
So how many of them? Well, it's a factor of things, right? So it's a number of things that can apply to that. So I'll use myself as an example. I've reviewed one business on Yelp. It was a Chipotle, right? I reviewed a business 3 years ago. It still shows up recommended at the top of their page. one of the reasons for that is because the review had gotten liked, got clicked as useful or cool or what have you. So that keeps its relevance higher, right? It keeps it up higher because it's relevant. People are engaging with it. In addition to, my profile's complete. I've integrated my Facebook, right? And I have added friends, right, of other Yelpers who are much more active than I am, right? So again, that goes back to authenticating the user. So it's not necessarily one thing or the other. And you compare that with the example of the gentleman who wrote 12 reviews over a short period of time and then appeared, and then after a period of time disappeared, right? So there are different factors that play into it, and those factors go back into what's the quality of the review.
Gotcha.
Is it relevant, and is this user, can we authenticate this human being? So.
Okay. All right, Daryl, I didn't forget about you. I know you got a couple more questions. He says, if a majority of your reviews on Yelp stink, why would you invite users to visit your page? And I get that. And I know what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, no, you want to get the people who do use Yelp to come and leave positive reviews. That's why you solicit those customers who really, really like your dealership.
And that's why I think a lot of dealers shy away from Yelp. But the reality is, right, Yelp is being seen by customers regardless of what we're doing on it or not, right? It's there. It's prominent, right? And I think that's where, in my opinion, the approach is to say, okay, how can we improve our reputation on that platform? And the way to do it is to start by identifying the customers or loyal customers who purchased from you, who've done business with you, that that would write a positive review, and identify those customers that are active on Yelp. So when they do go online to check you out, and or you ask, go online, hey, see, you a Yelper? Yes, I am. Fantastic. Have you checked us out? No, I haven't. Great. Check us out on Yelp. When they go on Yelp, they already know they've had a great experience. They had plenty of positive experience. So they're going to leave a positive review, right?
Right.
And they're going to look at that and say, well, I don't know what these people are talking about, man. My experience is just phenomenal. And they'll probably be the ones that leave that review that reads something like, man, I don't know what everyone else is talking about, but this is my experience, right? And we've all seen those types of reviews. So that's sort of that turning point, right? You got to start somewhere, and that's the place you really start in order to start improving that reputation. So where you don't feel hesitant and you feel confident to send people there.
Well, he liked that answer, but it didn't stop him from leaving us with our last comment of the day. He says, yo, can we all work to buy Yelp together and shut it down? Daryl, I hear they're worth a few ducats. I don't know how much money we can raise. You let me know. Okay. Ryan says, I don't know, I'm still not a fan, but I will say that Jeff did a much better job representing Yelp to this industry than anybody I've ever heard from Yelp. Ryan, thank you so much for that. Jeff, with that, I'm going to let you take lunch, my friend. I'm going to thank you for putting on, look, you know what, Jeff? If one thing happened today, and yes, lots of things happened today, and you really educated a lot of people today about what they can do to make their Yelp presence better. But one thing you definitely did, you definitely hit on a very popular pain point in the auto industry. So thank you for that. We really do appreciate your time today. You were wonderful.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate everybody attending, and thank you for the questions.
Great questions. Yeah, audience, you were wonderful today. Of course, audience, I want to remind you that we recorded this bad boy. We're going to send you that link later on today for your reference. Please feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. Today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. You go to dealeron.com/webinar, and then you can view our upcoming webinar schedule, or you can access any of our past webinars. And yeah, this webinar is going to conclude in just another minute, and you're going to get a short survey. We got to get you to fill this out. I mean, it's short. It's literally 6 questions, but we want to know what you thought of Jeff Cryder and his incredible presentation today. We're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And by the way, DealerOn's going to be attending a really awesome industry event. Have you heard of it? Kane Automotive's 11th annual Automotive Digital Success Workshop. It's November 10th through the 12th in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's your passport to digital success. You're going to be able to build a plan that perfectly aligns with your goals, and then it'll carry you into the new year. And DealerOn's own Director of Search and Social, Greg Gifford, is going to be a keynote presenter. For tickets or more information, please check out kaneautomotive.com. We hope to see you there. And invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next webinar. Whew, 4 ways to make customers fall desperately in love with your dealership. Very timely. Hopefully they'll leave you some Yelp comments, right? Well, let me tell you, dealers, they spend a lot of time, money, and energy vying for the attention and approval of car shoppers, only to have their advances thwarted by countless competing suitors also chasing after the often fickle consumer public. Would you like car shoppers to fall in love with your dealership? Of course you would. In this fun and informative 1-hour webinar, top internet sales trainer Joe Webb will detail the 4 ways to make customers fall desperately in love with your dealership. Relating car sales with romantic comedy films, Joe will expertly discuss how you can make deep, meaningful connections with consumers that can lead to long-lasting love affairs. Attendees of the smart, funny, and highly entertaining session will learn how to successfully court potential customers through their website and digital assets, lead management, showroom experience, dealership brand, and reputation. Love is a many-splendored thing, and in the end, everyone just wants to be loved. If you're ready to woo more car shoppers and learn 4 ways to make customers fall desperately in love with your dealership, then this is a presentation you simply can't afford to miss. Don't forget, DealerOn's weekly webinars are held Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, please feel free to contact me directly. Again, my name is Eliana. I'd love to hear from you. So track me down online, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. I'm on all the automotive social networks, or email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and I hope to see you all on another webinar in DealerOn's continuing education series. Take care.